Welcome to The Explainer. This is where we take big, complex ideas and break them down by going straight to the source.
So here's a wild thought for you. Can a single equation from physics actually unlock the deep metaphysics of the soul? Today, we're diving into this really fascinating framework that does just that. It connects one of the most important equations in all of modern physics to the very core ideas of Quranic metaphysics. And believe me, the parallels between the quantum world and the journey of the human spirit are, well, they're pretty stunning. So here's how we're going to tackle this. We're going to walk through it all, step by step. We'll start with the equation itself, get a feel for what it is, and then we'll see how its core principles map, almost perfectly, onto the Quranic story of creation, of choice, and ultimately of purpose. All right, you ready? Let's get into it.
Okay, so first up, a cosmic equation. We have to start with the man himself, Paul Dirac, and his absolutely legendary equation. I mean, this thing was a total game changer. It managed to bring together two giants of physics, quantum mechanics and special relativity, all to describe the behavior of a single tiny particle, the electron. And look, it was revolutionary for sure. Just this single, beautiful piece of math that nailed the description of the electron. But here's where it gets really interesting. Its real power wasn't just in what it described, but in what it predicted. It was almost like the equation itself was whispering to physicists, telling them, hey, you guys don't have the full picture yet. It basically demanded a whole new way of looking at the universe. So what did it demand? Well, it pointed to three incredibly radical new ideas about reality itself. First, that for every particle there has to be an antiparticle, an opposite. Second, that these particles are locked in a kind of binary choice. And third, maybe the weirdest of all, that empty space isn't actually empty. And it's these three big ideas that create this incredible parallel to a metaphysical framework we're about to explore.
All right, let's jump into that first principle, creation's duality. This is the whole idea of matter and antimatter, the concept that for every particle out there, there's got to be an equal and opposite twin.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just some abstract theory. No, this was a hard prediction. At the time, it sounded like something straight out of science fiction. But then, what happens? The anti-electron, what we now call the positron, was actually discovered just a little while later. Bam! Dirac was right. And with that, our whole understanding of physics changed. It really looks like creation itself was fundamentally built on pairs. And this is where the analogy just clicks into place so perfectly. The framework we're looking at maps that physical particle, the electron, to what's called the nafs. You can think of it as the ego, the self, the physical form made from clay. And its opposite, its balancing antiparticle, well, that's mapped to the Rooh, the divine spirit, that pure spark of truth that's breathed into us. So what does this mean? It means every single one of us is framed as this composite system, right? A particle and an antiparticle joined together. The ultimate test of our existence, then, becomes a question of alignment. Will the Nafs, our ego, submit its charge and line up with its spiritual counterpart, the Rooh? Okay, so that's duality. Now for the second big prediction from Dirac's equation. This one introduces a fundamental choice, and not just for us humans, but a choice that's baked into the very fabric of the quantum world. The equation predicts something called quantum spin. Now, don't get hung up on the word spin. It's not like a little spinning top. A better way to think about it is like a tiny, tiny compass needle that can only point north or south. That's it. And when you put it in a magnetic field, the particle has to choose. It's forced to either align with that field or point in the exact opposite direction. There's no in-between, no pointing east or west. It's one or the other.
So how does this map over? Well, in this framework, that quantum spin represents the soul's own binary choice. The field in this case is divine guidance, and in the presence of that field, the soul can either align with it, that's spin up, a state of submission, called taqwa, or it can oppose it, spin down, a state of pride, called fujur. And this is absolutely crucial. Just like that particle in the magnetic field, there's no middle ground here. The soul has to orient itself one way or the other. It's a fundamental choice between a positive energy state, ascending towards light, and a negative energy state, descending toward fire. And if you want a perfect example of that spin-down state, here it is. This is the ultimate expression of pride, isn't it? A direct, conscious choice to oppose a divine command, and it's all based on, I am better. It's the original negative choice, the first spin-down.
All right, we've had duality, we've had choice. The final prediction from Dirac's equation is, well, it's maybe the most mind-bending one of them all. It basically says that what we think of as empty space, the vacuum, is not empty at all.
So what Dirac imagined was that the void is actually completely full. It's an infinite sea of particles in a negative energy state. We can't see them, can't observe them. A particle only becomes real to us when a little bit of energy lifts it out of this sea, bringing it into positive existence. And when it leaves behind a hole. And guess what that hole is? That's what we see as its antiparticle. And again, the parallel is just striking. This idea maps directly onto the Quranic concept of Al-Ghayb, the unseen, this infinite, unobservable reality of pure potential, from which all of our seen reality is pulled out of by a divine command. So in this picture, what is a human being? Well, we're framed as a unit of consciousness, an insan, that's been lifted up from that infinite potential of the unseen and placed into the limited, observable reality of the seen. You could say our very existence is a promotion, a jump to a positive energy state out of this infinite, unseen background. Okay, so we have the particles, the choice, the unseen origin, but how does it all connect? What's the force that drives all of this? This is where the framework introduces the idea of a prophetic circuit. It proposes that the entire prophetic lineage acts as a kind of cosmic energy field that governs these interactions. Think of it like this. This field is the force that presents the choice to the soul in the first place. It provides the energy needed for that transformation. It's what lights up the path from the unseen to the seen. It is that guiding field that forces the quantum choice of spin up or spin down. And this circuit tells a story, a narrative for the soul's journey. You have the starting point, the initial negative state, that pride represented by Iblis. Then you have the critical turning point, the energy conversion, Ibrahim's ultimate act of submission. And finally, you have the coherent wave, the final piece, the Qur'an. It's the complete energy source that lights up the whole field and forces a final choice. So, you see, in this model, the Qur'an isn't just a guidebook. It's much more fundamental than that. It's the actual code. To put it in physics terms, it's like the final wave function. You know, that's the thing in quantum mechanics that takes all the fuzzy possibilities, all the potential outcomes, and collapses them, resolves them into one single definite reality. So the big takeaway here is this really profound reframing of what Scripture is. It's not just some historical text you read, it's the actual architecture of reality. It's like the universe's operating system running in the background. And that means every single choice we make really, really matters because every choice is an input into this grand cosmic code. And that leaves us with this final, powerful question. It's a thought that really connects the deepest mysteries of physics with the deepest questions of faith. What if the universe isn't just described by code? What if it is code? It's an idea that could completely reframe how we see everything.